Chapter 11: How to Get What You Need from a Man Without Ever Asking for It. Learn how to talk to your man. You have only 3 lessons to learn. They are: 1. How to ask for what you want. 2. How to say no to what you don't want without becoming emotional. And 3. How to negotiate with the man in your life so that you can hear what he wants and doesn't want. When problems arise in communication, all negotiations and intimacy fail and give way to intimidation and seduction. While these do work, they are based on the fear, sense of guilt, and shame of the victim. Power plays and games take over when negotiation and intimacy are overridden. In every verbal communication in an intimate relationship, there must be one respected leader and one cherished follower. The respected leader says, "I think and I want," and also asks, "How do you feel?" and then listens. The female listens to the thinking and the wanting of the male, shares positive and negative feelings, and says yes or no. Men who know what they want will not get rejected as often as men who don't, whose ambivalence makes them appear weak and indecisive. Feminine women turn off to men who do not act like respectable leaders. If you want to be the female energy and your man does not have the courage to lead, but instead asks you what you want and what you think, decline gracefully and say, "I will tell you what I feel about what you think and want, but I'm uncomfortable leading." He may accept or rebel. If he rebels and wants you to be the masculine principal, then he must respect your leadership and not ask you to stick your neck out. Of course, masculine energized women do know what they want, and their assertiveness is fine, provided it is directed romantically at feminine energized men who often don't know what they want. But be certain to make clear to him that you cherish his feelings. Don't intimidate him into submissiveness. How to ask for what you want. If you choose to be the feminine energy, you get what you want by not directly asking for it, because a direct request may feel like a demand or an order to a masculine man, even if you don't mean it that way. Masculine men can hear an opportunity to please a woman, but they resist women who seem to issue commands. Masculine men pride themselves in their freedom to act, to choose, and to control their own destinies. They enjoy giving to feminine women and making them happy as long as this is not assumed, expected, or demanded. Most men, when told what you want and think outside of work environment, will, instead of obediently giving you what you want, have a man-to-man competitive reaction, responding with what they want, thus ruining the objective of simply having fun together. When Murray, a pediatric intern resident at a large hospital, wanted to see her boyfriend Pete, a surgical intern at the same hospital, to ask him about his free time, she would run up to the floor on which he was working. Pete was so busy that he often enjoyed her pursuing him, but the problems came when he did not want to see her, even when he was free. Sometimes Pete just wanted to be alone or with his friends. When he would tell her this, Marie would try to argue him out of it. Sometimes Pete gave in, but at other times her pushing made him angry and annoyed. Pete was exhausted from the long hours he worked, and although he tried to explain this point of view to Marie, her emotionalism would overwhelm him, and he would give in to her demands. This went on for about 6 months until Pete took a stand and threatened to end the relationship if Marie didn't change. Marie came to one of my seminars along with some other female interns who had heard about my system and how it worked. When she came up on stage, Marie was totally confused about how she had contributed to Pete's dissatisfaction with their relationship. Although Pete had allowed her to intimidate him simply because it was easier for him to do so, she saw it as a win for her side. However, I showed her why arguing with Pete had eventually caused the rupture and very nearly brought the loss to the man she loved. Through working with me, Marie learned that the only way a relationship as equally balanced as hers and Pete's was could be a success was to choose by mutual agreement whose thinking was ultimately respected first. If Marie wanted to be the feminine woman to Pete's masculine man, she needed to understand that even though they were totally equal in education, social skills, and economics, she still needed to defer to him as long as what he asked of her was ethical and moral. I taught Marie that she should not push for what she wanted in a logical or direct manner. Pete had given Marie permission to pursue him, but that did not mean she could control him. Marie decided that she would be happy respecting Pete's thinking instead of her own. Marie learned to follow his lead as long as he cherished her feelings. Marie didn't need to be happy when he said no to her request, but she did need to treat him in a respectful manner. And Pete didn't need to be insensitive to her pain when he turned her down. He needed to cherish her. Marie learned to ask, Pete, I know you are busy. Do you want to see me tonight? Pete learned to respond to the following way when he didn't want to see her. Marie, you know I care about you and want to spend time with you, but I do not have a lot of time. I want to be with the guys tonight for a few hours. How do you feel about me saying no? Marie's feminine response to his turn down could be, Pete, I appreciate your time constraint and your wanting to see the guys. Of course, I'm not happy about it, but I do not want to hassle you. Have fun. This was an intimate, direct transaction in which both people felt respected and cherished, even when pain was involved. Women attending my lectures and hearing this for the first time often respond with anger. As liberated women, they pride themselves in taking responsibility for their lives and for asserting themselves. What I recommend often seems to be in direct contradiction with self awareness skills they have come to learn and prize. And I can almost hear you saying, why do I have to put men on an intellectual pedestal? I'm as smart and talented and educated and successful as they are. The reason is that you want your man to put you on an emotional pedestal, a cherishing place. Then you do have to put him on an intellectual one, a place of respect. You must not try to teach him, criticize him, belittle him, or compete with him for sexual control. A truly feminine woman shares with her man her feelings about what pleases and does not please her, which allows him to solve a problem in his way, not hers. She can always reject him if he is not satisfying her, but until she does reject him, she accepts him as enough, and she does not hurt his feelings by being blunt and tactless. When I say put your chosen man on an intellectual pedestal, it is with this caveat. As long as you give him feedback about your feelings concerning his ideas, thoughts, opinions, and beliefs, and he listens with empathy and does not impose immoral or unethical values on you. The idea is that the female energy automatically gives respect for the male's right to speak. She does not compete or contradict or confront him with her ideas. Donna, an interior decorator, had been seeing Richard, a computer programmer, for about 5 months. She'd read that Rod Stewart would be performing live in their town, and she wanted Richard to take her to see him. A simple enough request, except that in the past, whenever she had been assertive and direct in her communication with Richard, he would get annoyed with her. Eventually, though, he would come around. When this first started happening, Donna was confused. She wondered if Richard was just stingy and resented having to spend his money on her, but then she remembered all the nice things he did for her and gave her, and she knew that he was not the problem. It wasn't until she began attending my seminars that she learned what was going wrong in her communication with Richard. What Donna was doing, in effect, was asking Richard for more or better time together. As I have said previously, this can turn a man into a little boy or a passive aggressive male who will not comply. If Richard had said no to taking Donna to the concert, she would have she could have said, you have every right to say no, but I am very unhappy about your answer, and I am going to go to the concert without you. Another way she could put it is, Richard, I am sad about your not wanting to take me to the concert, and I'm going without you. What do you think about my solution? What Donna must not say is, you were wrong and insensitive for not taking me. What that would mean that Donna was equating Richard's cherishing with her obedience to her will, which is wrong. Richard has the right to control his giving. She can accept or reject him, but not control him. If the male energy is smart, he will compromise with the female for better results, rather than demand unconditional compliance. And if a woman is feeling centered feminine energy, she will hear out her man's input graciously and use as much as his solution as she can. At the same time, he accepts her right to incorporate his suggestions to her own solution. Equations that are all or nothing, black or white, create confrontations that ruin intimacy and romance. An egomaniacal director type of man whose woman is unworthy of being cherished because she allows him to act like a tin god without the slightest resistance is one who believes that his ideas and beliefs are to be rigidly adhered to without feeling input from his woman and children. This type of man doesn't want to hear, I like it, I'm afraid, I am uncomfortable, etc. He doesn't care about her feelings, or at least he cares more about his own. He is a narcissist and uncommittable. An important thing to remember if you choose to be the feminine energy is to never tell a negative feeling to your masculine man unless you are willing to follow his request solution or give your solution and ask his thoughts on it. It is frustrating for him to hear a problem and not be able to solve it. Shan, a legal secretary who believed she was about to get fired, often came home from work in a bad mood. When she came to see her boyfriend, Tony, a computer salesman, she'd start telling him how awful things were at work. As soon as she began to talk, he'd interrupt her with suggestions about how to handle the situation. Then Shan would get frustrated, saying she only wanted to listen to him, and she would get angry and stomp off. Shan would have done better saying, Tony, I need to dump some of my feelings about work. I don't really need or want any solutions because I have a plan already. Do you think you can listen for 15 minutes? Tony then knows what is expected, and he can clearly say yes or no to her request. Shan can wail away without fear of his interfering with the venting process. If she wants his input, she must ask for it by saying, Tony, I have some negative feelings about this work situation that I want to talk about with you and hopefully get some feedback and suggestions. Are you willing to do this now or at another time today? By speaking in this way, Shan has clearly indicated that she wants in a respecting manner that allows Tony to control his destiny and cherish her at the same time. Feeling women know what they don't want rather than what they want. I believe feminine women should know what they don't want rather than what they want. Knowing what you want is male and knowing and logical and often overrides feelings and sensibilities. To know what you don't want requires looking inside yourself at all your opinions and feeling your way towards them. Feminine women feel their way into and out of deals, conversations, and situations. If it feels right, do it. As a feminine woman, you must rely on your feelings to tell what to tell you what is good or bad, and then use your brain to act on those feelings. You will get what you want by knowing what feels good or bad, but primarily by knowing what feels bad and then saying no to what that which does not feel right. If you rely only on your thinking, wanting brain, you can often be persuaded by a man's logical arguments to do things like have casual sex, loan him money, or let him move in, which ultimately won't feel good and you will regret. Sometimes a man will challenge you by saying, "Aren't you aren't you a 90s woman, smart, assertive, and self-sufficient? Why are you running away without talking about it?" What he is really saying on another level is, stay on this debate until my logic overrides your feelings. Don't do it. Not only must you, as a feminine woman, not compete logically with masculine men, but it is important that you do not explain or defend your feelings. If the man in your life asks you to do something you don't want to do, instead of arguing and defending your position, say, I appreciate your idea, however, I don't feel good about it. I don't want to do it, and I won't. Will you accept this? Most women will feel obliged to explain themselves so they don't sound inflexible, stubborn, hysterical, or stupid. Leona, a high school art teacher, felt so guilty when asked by her long term boyfriend James, an engineer, to do something she was unable to comply with that she would attempt to assuage when she assumed was disappointment by endlessly explaining why what he asked was impossible. Finally, James would snap at her in frustration. Then Leona, believing that his anger would was because of her saying no, would continue to defend her position, desperately trying to convince him that her refusal was logical. But in fact, James was angry at the talk, talk, talk technique that Leona employed, not at her saying no. Leona and James came to one of my seminars, and I worked with both of them on stage. I suggested a new way of James to ask Leona to do something he wanted her to do. Leona, you may or may not want to do this, and it's okay with me either way. I want to get onto the car and head out of town for a weekend. No plans, just spontaneously. What are your feelings about this? Then I taught Leona a response that would smoothly handle her saying no to James if she felt that way. James, your idea is wonderful and sounds like fun. I feel guilty about telling you this weekend is not good for me because I promised to help a friend move. Do you think you and I can get away the following weekend? Both Leona and James needed to accept the other's right to ask for something and say no graciously. They both quickly learned this lesson and incorporated this better means of communication into their lives. Sue Ellen, a beautiful business analyst, always had trouble saying no to a man she was attracted to, and the result was that her boyfriend Byron, a good looking stockbroker, easily manipulated her into things this way. He would swamp her with humor, affection, and seduction until she gave in to him on any issue, such as having sex when she was ready to walk out the door for work, or staying with him to help him clean his closets instead of going out with her girlfriends on a Saturday afternoon shopping spree. And most painful of all to her, acquiescing on this delay in talking about their future. Sue Ellen and Byron had been dating for 1.5 years, and Sue Ellen was ready to talk about marriage, but anytime she brought up the subject, he would skillfully maneuver her out of it. Sue Ellen would say, I love you, you love me, we are having a great relationship. Don't rock the boat. When the time is right, we will get engaged. Trust me. Although Byron was always spoke with humor and warmth and included lots of hugs, and Sue Ellen always ended up in frustrated but laughing heap in his arms. Inside, she felt awful. She was angry each time he diverted the conversation, but she didn't know what to do about it. In time, Sue Ellen learned to honor her negative feelings and to communicate them to Byron. She said, Byron, I have loved our relationship for 1.5 years. I'm feeling very frustrated and intimidated by your unwillingness to talk seriously about what you want for a future. I don't want to devote much more time to this level of commitment. I will stay with you as long as I can, but I'm warning you that I'm running out of good feelings about us. Will you talk with me about this soon? Unfortunately, Byron became angry when Sue Ellen stood her ground and his techniques for cajoling her failed. He left in a huff, telling her she was lucky to have him and challenging her to find a better man. Sue Ellen was shocked to find that instead of intense depression, she was actually relieved that she no longer had to endure the oppression of Byron's emotional control. The only thing she really missed, she realized, was in their fun sex. I asked Sue Ellen to duty date until she met a man who was willing and even eager to hear both her negative and positive feelings and to be there with her in a mutually beneficial relationship. I reminded her that if she could learn how to convey to a masculine man that she doesn't want, he would figure out what she does want by investing time, money, and energy. He would be good for him to solve a problem, and he would feel good about himself when he was appreciating as a giving, protective, cherishing man. Masculine men like problems, challenges, the chase. Little boys like mama to do the work for them. You must decide which you are, a woman who simply and courteously says no to what she does not want, or a powerful woman who cajoles a man into doing it or not doing it her way. Why a feminine woman should never ask a masculine man how he feels. It is natural that a woman who is feeling centered would want to use the mode that is most natural and comfortable to her. But if you have chosen to be the feminine energy and are a man who wants to lead with ideas, suggestions, and opinions, do not ask him about his feelings. Why? Because all you will get is fine, okay, why do you ask? And you will always do better if you tell him your feelings openly and ask him what he thinks and wants to do about them. Men who want to be respected will often dodge the point where they ask how they feel. They may not be fine or okay at all, but they don't want to open up because it feels too vulnerable. Masculine men need time to think before they talk or act on their feelings, especially when building a relationship with a woman they love. A masculine man knows that a woman will either provide a safe place for his feelings or hurt them. So, generally, the man who wants to be respected will hold his cards close to his chest, but he will open up voluntarily once you have created a non threatening arena for him. Of course, feminine energy men who are aware of their feelings and want to be cherished always want to talk about them and have you, the masculine energy female, listen and help. There is nothing wrong with either man, but you must remember your priorities in the relationship to avoid problems later. If you want to be respected first as the masculine energy and he does too, conflict will lead to collision, competition, and confusion. Similarly, if being cherished is your first priority and his priority also, same problem. It won't work. When a man or woman wants respect as the first priority, or he or she often feels manipulated when asked questions about his or her feelings, especially questions that elicit fear, guilt, inadequacy, and other sensitive issues. When people want to be cherished, they will ask for cherishing. But when a man talks about his promise to you, you run the risk of becoming mom, sob sister, or therapist, all of which eliminate you as the woman. Little boy men can have sex with the big mama, but men who want respect from their problem solving skills will turn off. When a man feels safe, he will share his feelings voluntarily. Until then, don't ask. The male energy who is respected will feel cherished. The male energy who is cherished will feel respected. Cherishing is the best at its best is given freely, not asked for. All too often, however, women make the mistake of complaining to men who don't give, protect, or cherish enough. Do not ask to be cherished. If you don't feel cherished, leave quietly. If he wants you, he will come and get you and give you what you want, often by observing you and fulfilling your desires before you even think of them. Tricia, a gorgeous aerobics instructor who attended one of my seminars, was confused and upset when she asked, "Why does my boyfriend Phil get mad at me when I ask him to make love? Isn't it flattering to him to feel wanted by me?" I knew that Phil, who was a trainer at the same gym which Tricia worked, was responding from his maleness. Phil wanted to give lovemaking to Tricia. He did not want to perform on demand. It felt insulting to him, a power play for control. I always tell women who want to be the feminine energy to magnetize lovemaking by being sensuously affectionate, sexually attractive, to signal a man sensuously but non erotically that you are available and receptive will get the message across if he is a man who wants to give you pleasure of all types, particularly making love. For both Tricia and Phil to have equal rights to ask for sex caused a collision of wills. Phil wanted to be respected as the initiator, and eventually Tricia like the responder to him. By allowing Phil the safety to decide when and where he wanted to initiate sex, Tricia avoided turning him off by jumping the gun and not waiting. This passively might seem like a negative manipulation, but I believe that it is a positive uh, is positive. A manipulation is wearing makeup, dressing seductively, or acting like a lady. Going for it without consideration for a man's need to be respected is the fastest way to turn him off. Do you want to leave your power plays at the office or take them home and play hardball with your mate? I suggest that one of you leave your power at the office while the other bring it home potently. A potent woman can magnetize all the love, affection, time, and lovemaking of a man without verbally asking for it. In romance, compliments attract. People who are similar repel each other. What's your choice? Women who talk too much. If you have chosen to be the feminine, receptive energy in your relationship, then shut up even when you ache to fill the empty spaces in your conversation. Your masculine man will set the tone and fill the spaces according to his wants and needs. You need only respond, relax, relinquish control, and follow. He will get overwhelmed if you fill every moment with sound. Too much data coming from your right handed man's brain will cause him to shut down. If you cannot let him lead in conversation, perhaps you really want to be the masculine energy. And if so, keep talking and let him listen and be your feminine counterpart. how to turn him into a wimp. The most damaging thing you can do to your respected man is to assume that you can solve his problems with his job, health, taxes, banking, family, ex wife, and kids. You have every right to be the man, the generous, protective, and cherishing, as long as you consciously recognize the roles you are taking. Secure feminine women take care of their side of the relationship by sharing feelings and vetoing in immoral and unethical requests. Passive patience is the feminine way. Assertive action is the masculine way. Don't jump back and forth. Stay on one place until you do otherwise, and only then do what feels good for you to do. Unwanting daddy. Often a woman in pain will say, George, I am in pain over. What are you going to do to fix it? She is asking her man to be daddy, not boyfriend or husband. Protective men automatically will give a solution to their woman in pain and expect them to at least consider it. A woman who resents this giving solutions only wants to live in the problem or have him do what it takes to make her happy without her participation. A masculine husband or boyfriend expects his woman to ask for advice or to solve her problems on her own. He does not expect her to ask him to solve a problem as if she were a helpless child. Amy, an aspiring actress who enjoys being the feminine energy, really cared about her boyfriend Dennis, a successful audio engineer, but she resented him too because he would not solve her problems. She would ask him to call her agent for her and chew him over auditions she felt was not being set up for. Although she was willing to listen to her problem, Dennis told Amy that she could call her agent herself. He said that she would give her advice and opinions about her business decisions only after she put her solutions on the table in an adult manner. He would not be her daddy, and of course, because he required her to be an adult, businesslike woman, she gained a lot of inner and anchored security. Amy learned that she didn't need Dennis's assistance to be respectable and decisive in her career. Everyone is masculine at work. They must negotiate objectively, deal with solutions, and ask for help only when it is appropriate. To be feminine does not mean to be helpless. If a man gives you advice and you know will not work, you can blindly follow him. Instead, use one of the communication tools, and that is used for conflict, in this case, stroke and stand. Say, I like it when you give me the advice I ask for. However, I feel uncomfortable about doing whatever suggested because give your reasons, and you are willing to talk more about your ideas, thoughts, and suggestions until I am comfortable making my decision. To receive as much data from your man as he can give allows you to make a better decision. When a feminine woman like Amy is with a man whose brain she respects, it is appropriate to glean his opinions, ideas, and suggestions, but it is not appropriate to use his ideas as directives to be followed. Macho men are dictators who order and demand adherence to their wishes because they feel insecure and inadequate with a secure and adequate woman. A masculine, healthy, sensitive man enjoys assisting his woman in her own career, but accepts her final decision as her right, not as disrespectful rebellion. Arguing and debating painfully are not the goals. Thinking, sharing, and mutual respecting are. In their personal, intimate life, Dennis did not take charge and expect Amy to follow his lead, but not in the area of her career. He respected this area of her life and supported her masculine, decisive energy even when she didn't. Too much feminine energy is as bad as too much masculine energy. Balance is appropriate. Dennis had integrity as a man, and he did not allow Amy to seduce him into being daddy, even when she was upset with his refusal. A man and woman of virtue can negotiate their love affair as good human beings. They walk through their natural, normal fears of rejection and abandonment to the final rejection and abandonment to the final conclusion, whether it is failure of compatibility or successful intimacy. Don't hold back. Men and women who are comfortable in themselves practice integrity and virtue. They openly share and discuss what they want and they don't want and learn from their mistakes. A man who is virtuous and has integrity takes the time to think through his priorities and goals and articulates them so that a woman can know him and hear him clearly. If he is without virtue or integrity, he allows his fears of rejection to intimidate him into lying or manipulating. Men who take pride in the clear thinking left lobe logic can be turned off by a manipulative woman who is dishonest about her true feelings. A man can understand and handle a woman who is having a screaming fit better than he can cool, calm women who is telling white lies or giving false information about her feelings. Women who are virtuous and have integrity tell how they feel moment to moment, even if this varies constantly. A man can track feelings that are honest, and he can trust that women because he gets a moment to moment weather report. So remember, don't hold your negative feelings, say no, and don't explain or defend your feelings.